Alright guys, so today we've got a video on something that comes up often when we talk to our mortgage brokers and people that we send to mortgage brokers. So let's say for example you run a business and you pay yourself a nominal income, right? In this instance, let's just call it 80k. Pay yourself 80k a year. You go for a loan as a business owner and you can't get the loan, right? Because you don't earn enough. You haven't paid yourself enough for long enough. So we sort of have two options that we can explore here. The first option is looking at paying yourself more, okay? So making sure that you pre-plan ahead and you make sure that the business pays you enough for the loan you need at that time. And the second one is going down the low doc path. So low doc path, need less documents, you pay a higher interest rate. Now in this example, we're going to use an 800k loan, okay? So 800k loan, let's call it a $1 million purchase. And we're going to say the normal rate we're looking at is about 2% over 30 years and the low doc rate is about 5% over 30 years. So on the left, we're going to go through the exercise where we pay ourselves more. So in this instance, let's say the only at 80k on a full doc loan or a normal loan is it only gets you about 500k. So you need about 120 to get an 800k loan, not including whatever your expenses are, etc. This is an example. In that instance, you're going to pay about 30k tax a year. So it's about, you're going to earn 120k, pay 30 grand tax, and then walk away with that in your pocket. Whereas for 80k a year, it's only 15k tax. So you're going to pay an extra $15,000 tax a year to be able to do that. You've got to take that into consideration because especially if it's our home loan, it's not a tax deductible expense. So over that 30 years at 2%, the total repayments on that loan is $1,050,000. Then that gives us a $250,000 interest excess, right? So we're paying $250,000 in excess and we paid $450,000 in the extra tax to be able to generate that income. Cool? That gives us a total of $1.5 million cost towards that home. However, some of the pros here is that we do have some tax strategies to minimise. So, meaning that you took the tax route, then we can incorporate some other tax strategies to try and get that actual taxable amount down less. Versus if we go to the low doc amount, right, 5% at 30 years, we stay on 80k, we pay 15k tax total, which is 15k less a year. That means our total repayments because of the higher interest rate is $1.55 million, meaning a $750,000 extra interest expense. And obviously we pay less tax, so we're not going to incorporate that. So a total cost of $1.55 million, so $50,000 worse. Really much of a muchness, right? But as that number gets bigger, that number will blow out. The big consideration here is don't be lazy and just go down the low doc route because your mortgage broker's told you to because it's easy to do. Because first and foremost, it's questionable whether, if you're owning that, whether you can actually afford that loan in the first place. So we need to make sure, I put a video up the other day where I talked about what you can purchase doesn't mean you can afford. Okay, and this comes into this really, really in depth because if you're on 80k and you don't have dividends, you don't have other things happening, and you're just trying to get a loan, the question there is whether you can afford the thing in the first place. But the secondary thing is, if you get this loan across the line, you're stuck with that number, that interest rate for essentially the rest of your life, especially if that number goes up, right? If the interest rate goes up and you don't increase your income and you can't refinance and get a better rate. Whereas over here, it's better overall for the long term of the loan. It's going to take longer to get the loan, but you can use tax strategies to minimize that $450. So essentially, if you're really good, you could probably get that down to $250 over that time, meaning that, you know, that's going to be a significantly better number. But also, you've got more flexibility, okay? You can probably afford the loan better. You're paying out, you still pay housing expenses, etc. And you can refinance as rates happen and have more flexibility. So just something to consider because I get this one a lot from people, mortgage brokers who refer business through saying, oh, well, you'll save on tax if you just go the low doc anyway rather than paying yourself more. But realistically, over the term of the loan, that's not really the best situation. That's a solution for short term that long term you're going to have to think about and sort out. So make sure you're looking at this and, you know, if you've got a plan in place, a good financial plan in place, so analyze and look at all this stuff. And then including, we look at how much tax is going to cost you to buy the home, then we can consider whether or not you should be buying the home as your own place, or whether you should be going down the rent vest or the investment route first to make sure you can maximise the use of that $30,000 and that $15,000 tax amount, which is going to make those numbers look even better. So keep that in mind, don't just jump into something, reach out if you need any help, and I hope that helped.